want to export oil to, they will have, it's part of political ideologies or differences among them, will probably prefer taking gas from United States or from Russia and so on. So that is the problem we are currently facing.
Well, we heard the finance minister talk about the fact that even if oil price goes down to $60 per barrel, Nigeria is ready. Are we really ready?
Maybe he knows more than what some of us know. And of course, he is in a better position to know, because if he keeps the money, if he keeps the finances of the country, he should know more than all of us. But the key thing is this. We were doing over 2 million barrels a day oil production, out of which we export as much as about 1.8 million barrels per day. Now the price was over $100 per barrel. Assuming we are producing 2 million barrels per day, and we are exporting, say, 1.6 million barrels per day, and in the face of competition, we cannot even be too sure that we will maintain that level of production or export. Okay, if the price now goes down to $60 per barrel, we can just do simple arithmetic. We don't need to take a computer or a calculator to be doing what the effect will be on our economy. So, but the finance minister is an intellectual. He keeps government finances. From my own perspective, I cannot go into any argument. But from what I know, from what I can reason out, and from what you and some other people will reason out, you can imagine that it's not the same thing when the price of oil gets down to $60 per barrel as against when it is over $100 per barrel. Don't always forget this. There are so many fields we are developing in Nigeria that some of the major producers will think twice when the price of oil goes down to $60 per barrel. Some will say that, okay, if the price goes down to 60 to 70, we'll still continue with our major project. But when it gets down to $60 per barrel, it's a totally different ballgame. And they may have to go back to the drawing board to look at the economics, to see some of the fields they want to develop, whether it will be very much viable, and the returns to their investment will be attractive enough for them to go ahead. Now, that will mean that they will have to look at other alternatives, other places where they can invest their money. And especially in an environment where the companies tend to complain about the fiscal regime we are trying to put up through the PIB, they will now be considering whether they won't have to shift their investment to some other countries that are probably be more favorable. But we can hope that the price of oil will not go down to as low as $60 per barrel for too long, because if it does, some of the even shale gas we are talking about, or some other development in other countries cannot be sustained on the basis of low price of oil.
But for how long do you think the decline in oil price is going to continue? How long are we going to see this slide in oil price?
No, for example, we are now getting into a winter period, in Europe and in of United States, and then you may then see the price, the stock of oil, being drawn down, whereby come in another 5-6 months, the price may go up because some of the countries or companies will have to restock, and that was what informed the decision of OPEC to wait until they are meeting in June next year before they now decide whether to do production cutback. Now you may see OPEC taking a strategic decision June, or if the situation gets out of hand before June next year, you can see that OPEC will meet to consider the alternative measures to take.
Now, some people believe that with this slide in oil price, that actually would help curb oil theft. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know. You see, when let's look at it. people who sell oil, but they don't have any cost of production. So whether they sell at 100 or they sell at 60, it doesn't really matter very much to them. At the end of the day, they are still making money. Yes, their gains may be reduced, but it's even that they will not be having anything. So the incentive to steal oil is not based on the fact that the price of oil was over 100 or close to 100. It's just that they want to make additional money. The only thing is that the ease with which they can sell stolen oil, because of the voracious demand for oil, may not be as high as when there is now that there is a glut. But the fact will remain that people with if measures are not taken to curb oil theft, there will still be some amount of oil theft going on.
Now, the passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill has remained a major concern here in Nigeria. Are we likely to see this bill passed anytime soon, considering the fact that oil price is sliding?
Well, it's like the Minister of Petroleum said, the ball is in the court of National Assembly. And I think for quite some time, both Senate and House of Rep were talking about passing this bill, because we are cutting our nose to spite our face, as it were. If you look at the amount of investment we have lost over the past 5-6 years, some of the problems we are currently having today, will not have been exacerbated, or we may have, will not have been exacerbated if we have passed the bill, and some of the investment that we have lost have actually been put in place. But the issue now is, if we don't pass find a way of passing the bill, it will be increasingly becoming difficult for us to do so, because the dynamics of the international petroleum industry and market will be changing things not in our favor, but against our favor, in terms of putting in place legislation that will put the Nigerian oil and gas industry on a sound footing. The earlier the politicians or interest groups are able to see reason and note the implications of what they are doing, the better. But I don't expect much will happen between now and probably early next year, because the National Assembly, the senators and House of Representatives members, they are now more concerned about their re-election and so on. So the attention they are paying to issues of legislation, is considerably reduced. Not to talk of some of the problems they are having, particularly in the House of Representatives. So their minds are not settled to consider the bill in a way that I feel that probably they will pass it. Although so much amount of work has been done, what is probably keeping the bill in the code is the vested interest. And once they make up their mind to say that, okay, ladies, gentlemen, let's forget about our differences. Let's this bill, push this bill forward and pass it. I guess within a short time they can do so. But then they have to sink their differences. They have to keep the interests of the country first in their consideration, so that at the end of the day, the bill that people feel that it will provide solution to some of the problems we are having in the industry, and indeed the Nigerian economy, will have been passed into law.
And looking at the whole scenario, looking at the situation, what is the way forward?
We have to internalize our resources. We have to expand opportunity within our country. We have to go and quickly establish refineries to supply domestic market. Stop importation of petroleum products, for goodness sake. That is one of the things. But it's not something that will come overnight. But we have to give encouragement to those who are willing to do that. And government can go into joint venture with private sector to establish refineries. Maybe at a later time you can then sell, but government has to jumpstart some of these. We have to put refine substantial proportion of our crude locally. Then we have to export products to some of these African countries, apart from our own local market, and do is a sort of bilateral relations, trade relations with some countries we feel that can take our crude oil, in the next couple of years, while we are looking at the way to diversify. And finally, we have to be prudent in managing our resources.
The Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of International Energy Services Limited, Dr. Diron Fawibe, in a conversation with my colleague Chimize Obiwagu. And so the oil market is actually not growing significantly, according to what he says, but supply is increasing from OPEC and non-OPEC users of the commodity. And Nigeria will have a big competition in the next 5 to 10 years, particularly from the US and other countries that have begun to discover oils, who will be competing fiercely with oil-producing countries to supply Asian countries with the commodity. And like he says, dynamics will change things that may not favor Nigeria's economy, especially particularly with the with the proposed petroleum industry bill. And he says, like most industry watchers, now is the time for the petroleum industry bill to be passed into law, because the proposed PIB will usher in a new vista in the industry and, among other things, create a new fiscal framework upon which Nigeria's earnings from the sector will improve, since the industry will be opened up for even participation by all players. And as I said, dynamics may change if dynamics will change things that may not favor Nigeria's economy, and so the bill should be passed. That's what Dr. Diron Fawibe says in that interview. Of course, attention should also be paid to the refineries. Well, Business Morning will be back in just a short while. Welcome back on the home run now, and businesses are closed, as I said, for today and tomorrow, but make sure you have a budget and stay within the limits of that budget. And as market watchers say, local and foreign investors in the country must brace up for an extremely turbulent operating environment in the coming year, with the elections just around the corner, and of course other economic upheavals which are set to test the resolve of investors in the country. But that's it on today's edition of the program. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Harriet Agbin. Enjoy your holiday.